Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Ben Fellows. If this is the first time that you are seeing this, my goal is to just do software development, but with a focus on test automation to basically help push automation engineers forward when it comes to using things like Cursor, Claude Code, and these other tools. We will be working on a sort of just side app I have, a customer success app. And today we'll be doing contract tests, or not contract tests. I can't talk component tests, front-end component tests specifically. Actually, there is only front-end component test now. I'm thinking about that out loud. So basically what you're looking at is a Cursor code base. What it is, it's a customer success app. You have your ability to look at tickets, stuff like this, and so forth. So what we're going to be doing is we're just adding component tests to the base. Now, I do already have one file that has a bunch of component tests in it. You can see that at least in the past, this was failing. Let's see. Okay, now that passes. So let's go ahead and just run this file really quick. And one of these failed. Let's see which one it is right here. All right. Should not show AI analysis when required fields are empty. All right. Now let's go look. Okay. So that seems like it's working. So why is it failing? This seems working. Why is the test failing? Okay, basically, if you don't know what a component test is just a faster way of doing UX UI automation. The biggest benefit of component test is that it doesn't necessarily even have to use the browser, so it's much faster. It's like a unit test or an integration test, but on the front end. One of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of automation teams do is they'll do a lot of end-to-end testing where you could very reasonably do component tests within a contract test in the front end and back end. I think end-to-end testing, by the way, absolutely has its place and its value. I'm a huge fan of Playwright, for example, to do that. I'm actually a Playwright ambassador, but component tests is a really nice piece of it. The overall puzzle. Sorry, sometimes talking and reading the AI stuff is hard. All right. Looks like it's a test issue, possibly. Empty fields outside before each restructure. The concern I have with it doing a before each thing is that I was working through all the other tests and I have them all passing. So I'm going to be curious if we see a regression in some of the tests. It's easier just to see it in the terminal. Okay, cool. 41 tests passed. All right. So I had already gone through all these tests. One of the things that keeps coming up about these videos is that you should not blindly trust AI. I completely agree. That being said, the average watch time in these videos is like 4 minutes. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time looking through every one of the test cases. I will eventually make a video specifically dedicated to basically reviewing the test cases that AI adds. But what I really want to focus on is, hey, I don't have test coverage. I don't have the time and effort to get test coverage in place. Let's talk about how easy that is. So right now we have a single component test. What we're going to do now is we're going to say add component test to the share customer detail page based on, we can even just give it more context. Not that it needs any more context, but we're going to do it, right? The biggest thing about AI that I like is that when you have patterns that you think are the right patterns, it's very good at copying those patterns. So basically I spent this morning setting up all my component tests for my create ticket form in the way that I like component tests and how I want them to work. And now that pattern is in place, it will start adding component tests for all my other pages, and it's very good at following that pattern. By the way, while we're waiting, if you are watching these videos and you want more of a formal education, I'm considering doing some workshops on this stuff, both virtual and in person. So please drop a comment below in the video if that's something you're interested in. Or alternatively, if you're like a director of QA and you want someone to just join your team and be an evangelist on your team for some of these things, check out workwithloop.com. We do embedded engineering, and what we really focus on is two things. One is being the sort of cultural impact to start to embrace some of these tools. And then two is being the technical impact to bring in some of these best practices. All of our embedded engineers are based in the United States. We basically do full-time or half-time, so hit us up if that is something you're interested in. And it's working through the customer details page, so we'll give it a second for it to be done. Okay, so it has added a new file, customer detail. We can quickly look through it. So it's going to mock some of the customer information. It's going to mock some of the detail information about the tickets that they've submitted. Should render customer detail with all the appropriate sections. One of the things I'll call out here is it's not using any kind of test ID because we don't have test IDs in the component. I can almost guarantee when we try to run this, there will be some kind of failure because of that. What I also find about component tests is Generally speaking, they're going to write themselves based on the code. So if for whatever reason you have a component that is completely missing a field or is missing a required field or something like that, it's not going to be smart enough to know it. So this is one of those areas where you do really need to look through. But the nice thing about component tests is they're really readable and super easy to go through. So we can just go ahead and run all these. I generally don't like using this extension, but at the same point, it's helpful for these videos because it has like a nice basic output. Now we got unable to find. Interesting. All right, so let's just go ahead and run 28 failures. Unable to find. Interesting. Did any pass? Okay, so some passed. Okay, interesting. So let's go through them. Back to customers button. We're going to go to customer details, back to customers. So it's there. So why is it unable to find it? Okay, let's just do this. Let's go ahead and say add test IDs to the component. So what it's going to do now is go ahead and add test IDs to the component. Generally speaking, I feel quite safe about this. AI at this point very rarely will mess something up when it's just trying to add test IDs. So as a general way of just making this entire process a lot more stable and easier, I would always advocate at this point for using test IDs. Okay, so we've gone ahead and added test IDs to the component. Some were already present. Oh, cool. Rather, the test ID is showing instead. Okay, so then it also looks like maybe the test was not necessarily mocked correctly. What was this guy? I find this extension really annoying because it's like sometimes the little play buttons work and then sometimes they don't. Okay, so it thinks it's made some improvements. Let's go ahead and run it. It's actually made it worse. All right, let's just tell it to focus on this one. Okay, so at this point, we're just trying to fix one of the tests to see how it goes. All right, so the component stuck in loading test. So this is mock issue. Let's debug. I have too many chords. Okie doke. So it thinks it has fixed it. So let's go ahead and run the test. Much better. All right, so let's tell it better. Check the failures and tell me whether they are bad tests or bugs. Once again, you absolutely have to also be reading through this. While we're doing it, we can look through some of the failures. Call back. Should not show customer found when it doesn't exist. Should. So these are possibly legit bugs, actually. Because this app like has a bunch of this stuff that's not been thought through. Oh, failures. Actually, that might not even be accurate anymore. Here, let's run it. Pass. Found an element with the text. Should handle status. So like this one, for example, I'd not be surprised if there's not actually a no ticket message that's anywhere. Okay, so AI has finished its analysis. It thinks they're bad tests. I'm not sure I 100% believe that. Let's go ahead and see how it fixes the test. And then based on how it fixes the test, we can decide if that aligns with what our expected behavior is or not. Okay, so the AI thinks it has fixed most of the contract tests. Let's go ahead and run it again. I did get down some of the failures. Now, once again, I'm not convinced it didn't update the test to just avoid some of the bugs, but that is something I'll have to go through later. Should handle missing. Let's see if this is fixed. All right, so let's read through this. Should handle missing customer on a very fly. Yeah. Should render without crashing. Okay, yeah. To be fair, yeah, I guess from a UX UI perspective, you would not want that to crash. Okay. Let's have it keep going. So we're just going to basically have it keep going. Okay, so it thinks it has continued to make progress. We're going to run the suite. And it's made it worse, actually, which is really fascinating. Okay. You can give it the results. Actually, to be fair, it could have actually found a bunch of bugs. So I don't think there's a ton of bugs there, but you now have more failures. It's possible the updated tests found legit bug or you broke a bug. Those are two of the most likely scenarios. So it thinks it broke, possibly. Okay, so it thinks it has fixed itself. Let's again fix the bugs or the tests. And all we're really trying to get to for the record at this point is just like a fairly clean passing file. At this point, what I'd probably do is, if we weren't doing a video, is I'd just go through the 10 failures myself and just try to decide if they are bugs or tests. The goal of this video, though, more than anything, is just to show like how you can get pretty extensive component coverage in even a day. Like my goal for today would probably be to have about 15 of these components have pretty complete test coverage. So given that we've been on for just about 40 minutes, now this video is probably going to be edited down shorter given that we're waiting on the AI most of the time, but once we get this done, maybe we'll do one more file, call it a video. Okay, we are down to 7 failures. I have a meeting in the next 60 seconds. So I'm probably going to call the video today. Basically, moral of the story here is start adding component tests. AI is very good at it. Definitely, though, go through and check everything. Like I said, today, if I was sitting down to do this, my goal would probably be 10 to 15 component tests. Like I would say in the past, that would have taken me multiple days, if not a week, to maybe even 2 weeks to just do that. Just mocking alone some of the data is a huge hassle. But you can subscribe to the video, reach out to the channel, drop comments below on for future videos. Appreciate it. Talk soon, guys. Bye.